So that's the first thing to do, and it's expressed as a percentage. If the cervix is about a centimeter long, it'll be about 50% thinned out, so we'll say it's a 50% effacement. If it's completely flat, it'll be 100%. 0% means it's still very long and tubular. Dilation. We'll talk about how dilated is your cervix. You will progress from 0 to 10 centimeters before the second stage of labor begins, and that's what we're going to talk about next. But you have to go to 10 centimeters. Station is where your baby's head is in relationship to your pelvis. You can see on the diagram below, the bony pelvis is there. 0 station, or that 0 grade, is basically at the level of the ischial spines. And when your baby descends below that, that's a plus, and above that, that's a minus. So if we do an exam on a woman who is 38 weeks, and she's 2 centimeters, 50% effaced, and the vertex is at a -2 station, these are the numbers that we will sometimes speak to you about. It's also helpful to communicate to each other because it gives us a good idea about what's the pelvis doing. Let's see. Pitocin. So Pitocin is the trade name. The generic name is oxytocin, which is a hormone that your brain makes and releases that causes uterine contractility. It's given in an IV, so exogenously, as opposed to your body releasing it endogenously. We give it to you, if we give it to you in an IV, it's in a very controlled fashion. It starts off at milliunits per minute, so it's a very small dose. And we use Pitocin to either augment your labor, in other words, the labor is not progressing and we need to kind of strengthen the contractions, or we use it in an induction, and we can talk a little bit more about that. Myths, and I think there are a lot of them with Pitocin. It does not cause more pain than a natural labor contraction. Here's my, having had Pitocin, having had labor, my perception is, I think labor evolves more efficiently with Pitocin than it would without it. And as a result, the interval of time that we have to adjust to discomfort is shortened. So I think we feel labor contractions that would be just as painful 18 hours from now. We feel them with Pitocin at 10 hours. So I don't think that they make the contraction itself, the uterus itself, contract more potently or powerfully, but I think it brings about labor's development more efficiently. The other myth that we like to dispel is that it does not increase your risk for cesarean. I will tell you there are other myths. It is linked to autism, myth. It will increase risk for forceps, cesarean section, operative vaginal deliveries. It's not linked to that, but if you think about it, it's a hormone that your body is making. So I feel like it gets a bum rap sometimes. When used very carefully and judiciously, I think it's a good tool. It helps us have vaginal births where before, without it, perhaps we would not. Stage 2. This is, you've labored, you're 10 centimeters, now it's time to push. I often say I think that labor is backwards because you're in this long stretch of labor contractions. When you're most exhausted is when we're going to call upon you to have the most energy. And that's the second stage of pushing. I think you should labor, be very active the first 2 hours and then coast, but it doesn't work this way. So in the second stage of labor, you're completely dilated and then you begin to push. First time mom, not uncommon to push an hour to 3 hours. Second, third, fourth baby, sometimes it is 10 minutes. It again varies. While you are pushing, depending on how your baby is tolerating labor, we may be trying different positions. It helps your baby navigate through your pelvis, it helps you push more effectively. And again, I think the labor and delivery nurse, who is always with you, by the way, is very, very helpful in terms of providing assistance. Stage 3 is baby has been born and now we're waiting for the placenta. The delivery of the placenta takes usually less than an hour. Statistically, 99% deliver within 30 minutes. Most of the time, it's very brief. And if you think about it, what happens is the uterus goes from this volume to this volume. And that actual shrinking of volume helps the placenta shear from the uterine wall and then deliver. You don't have to push. You've done that already. There is some massaging that we do of the uterine, of the fundus to help promote the contraction and release of the placenta. But it is not a painful procedure. So speaking of pain, let's talk about comfort measures. First, non-pharmacological or non-medicine. Many times these are things that people opt for very early in their labor. Position changes such as walking, rocking aside the bed, sitting on a birthing ball, being on your hands and knees. Whatever makes you positionally feel better in labor is something that we would be amenable to. Again, as long as we can ensure that you're safe and your baby is. There's also breathing and other techniques. Many people will attend birthing classes that will coach them as to types of breathing. I think that's all good. I think if you're if you haven't done those classes, though, it's okay, because either the physician and or labor delivery nurse are going to be very helpful for you in terms of coaching and helping you address your breathing.